The battlefield was silent, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of silence. It was the terrifying silence that follows hours of brutal war. Smoke drifted slowly across the shattered ground. Burned vehicles, broken weapons, and the bodies of fallen soldiers were scattered everywhere. Among the ruins, a young woman crawled weakly through the mud. Her uniform was torn, her face covered in dirt and blood. She had been separated from her unit days ago. 3 days. 3 days without water. 3 days without food. Her lips were dry and cracked, her throat burning like fire. Every breath felt heavier than the last. She knew one more day like this, and she wouldn't survive. Suddenly, she noticed a soldier lying a few meters away. His body was motionless, half covered in dust. His uniform showed he had been fighting in the same war, but she couldn't tell which side he belonged to. Slowly, she crawled closer. No movement. No breathing. No sound. Dead. Her eyes fell on the deep wound across his arm. Dark blood had soaked into the fabric. Her mind began fighting with itself. This is insane. I can't do this. But her body was screaming to survive. Her hands trembled as she pressed against the wound. Fresh blood slowly seeped through the torn sleeve. She hesitated for a moment. Then desperation won. With shaking hands, she brought the blood to her lips. The warm metallic taste filled her mouth. For a moment, she felt ashamed, disgusted, terrified of what she was doing. But then something happened. Something impossible. The soldier's fingers moved. Her heart stopped. Slowly, terrifyingly slowly. The soldier opened his eyes. And he was looking straight at her. She froze. The blood she had just swallowed felt like ice in her throat. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The soldier's eyes were pale but alive, far too alive for a man she believed was dead. Fear shot through her body. She stumbled backward, nearly falling into the mud. I thought you were dead, she stammered. The soldier tried to move but groaned in pain. The wound on his arm was deep, and his breathing was weak. You drank my blood, he whispered, confused. Her face burned with shame. Yes. I didn't know you were alive. He stared at her for a few seconds before letting out a weak laugh. Guess that means I owe you an apology for scaring you. Despite the horror of the moment, his calmness confused her. Why are you not angry? She asked. The soldier closed his eyes briefly. In war, there are worse things than someone trying to survive. The wind howled through the destroyed battlefield around them. For the first time, she noticed something that made her stomach twist. His uniform. It wasn't the same as hers. He belonged to the enemy army. Her hand slowly moved toward the knife at her belt. The soldier noticed. You're thinking about killing me, he said quietly. She didn't answer. For a few seconds, the battlefield felt like it was holding its breath. Then he said something she never expected. If you wanted me dead, you wouldn't have tried to keep yourself alive with my blood. The realization hit her like a shock. He was right. If she truly wanted him dead, she would have left him there without a second thought. But survival had forced her into a situation neither of them expected. The soldier slowly pushed himself against a broken piece of metal for support. You're alone, aren't you? He asked. She nodded. My unit disappeared during the last attack. He gave a tired smile. Same here. For a moment, they were no longer enemies. Just two broken survivors in the middle of a destroyed battlefield. The sky above them was turning dark as evening approached. If they stayed here overnight, neither of them would survive. We need shelter, the soldier said. She hesitated. Helping him meant trusting the enemy. But leaving him meant condemning a man she had already taken life from. Finally, she sighed. Can you walk? Barely. She wrapped a piece of cloth around his wounded arm to slow the bleeding. As she helped him stand, he winced in pain. "Careful," she said. They began moving slowly across the ruins together. Two enemies. Two strangers. Bound together by the most disturbing moment either of them had ever experienced. But neither of them realized yet that the real danger of the battlefield was still waiting for them in the darkness ahead. Night fell quickly over the battlefield. The cold wind cut through their torn uniforms as they searched for shelter. Finally, they found a half-destroyed bunker buried under rubble. It wasn't safe, but it was better than the open field. Inside, the darkness was thick and silent. The woman lit a small emergency flashlight. The soldier sat down heavily against the wall. "You saved my life," he said quietly. She shook her head. "No. I tried to survive." He smiled faintly. "Same thing." She gave him a small piece of dry ration she had been saving. He looked surprised. "You're feeding the enemy now?" "Don't make it weird," she replied. For the first time, they both laughed. Outside, distant explosions echoed through the night. The war was still raging. But inside the bunker, something strange was happening. Two enemies were slowly becoming allies. And maybe, something even more complicated than that. But neither of them knew yet that the next morning would force them to make a choice that could change both of their lives forever. Morning arrived with the distant sound of helicopters. Both of them woke instantly. Rescue teams. But whose side? The soldier looked toward the entrance. "If it's your army, they'll kill me." She knew he was right. And if it was his army, they would kill her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, she said something that surprised even herself. "We leave together." He stared at her. "You betray your army for me?" She shook her head. "No. I'm choosing humanity over war." The soldier slowly stood. For the first time since they met, hope appeared in his eyes. Together, they stepped out of the bunker. Ready to face whatever waited outside, the helicopters passed overhead without noticing them. The battlefield slowly returned to silence. For the first time in days, neither of them felt like enemies. They walked toward the distant forest that marked the edge of the war zone. Before they disappeared into the trees, the soldier stopped. "You know," he said quietly, "this is the strangest way anyone has ever saved my life." She smiled slightly. "I'm still embarrassed about that." He shook his head. "No. You reminded me of something." "What?" "That even in the worst war, people can still choose compassion." The woman looked back at the battlefield one last time. Thousands had fought there. Thousands had died. But from that destruction, something unexpected had survived. Not victory. Not defeat. Humanity. Then the two former enemies turned away from the war. And walked into a future neither of them had expected to find. Together.